Today I have the pleasure of interviewing Gustav Ofstedt. He's the Secretary General at the Swedish Trade Association for Online Gambling. Mr. Ofstedt, welcome.
Thank you.
You recently took a strong stance against proposals for a total ban on bonuses. In a recent opinion piece, you warned that such a ban would mean giving up the fight of defending the licensed gambling market and its consumer protection. This isn't the first time you've voiced your opposition to similar reforms efforts. Why do you see these measures as so dangerous for customer protection?
Because customer protection can only be offered within a licensed gambling market. And to be able to create such a licensed market with a high participation in that market, it's important to strike a balance between customer protection, but also the excitement in the game. If there is no excitement in the game on the licensed market, the consumers will go elsewhere. We shall bear that in mind. This is an online industry, and it only takes a few seconds to go offshore. And that is extremely important for legislators and regulators to bear in mind, that they can only offer their consumer protection to their citizens if the legislators simultaneously safeguard the licensed market. And if you, for example, totally prohibit advertisement or totally prohibit any kind of bonus offers, then you create a huge difference in the attractiveness between unlicensed and licensed gambling.
How crucial is this for the Swedish market in particular?
Well, we can look at the numbers, and we do know that approximately 40% of the market nowadays, when it comes to online casino gambling, takes place outside the licensed market, on the grey, or in the worst cases black market, with its total absence of consumer protection. And this is why it's so important to allow not an uncontrolled volume of bonuses or advertisement. Of course they shall be regulated, but you make it too easy as a regulator and legislator if you simply totally prohibit it. You have to strike a balance.
You were elected to Parliament. You also served as Municipal Commissioner in Gotland before joining BOS in 2015. What motivated you to move from public policy into defending a sector as complex and often controversial as online gambling?
Well, to begin with, yes, this industry is complex, and that is something that I love, actually. It's also controversial on the negative aspect of it. Yes, I admit that. But for me, gambling is also, we must always remember that it's also excitement, and it's a fantastic way of spending your spare time. For me, as an example, I usually bet a few Swedish 100 krona when I watch a football match, and it just brings so much more excitement to it. So we're one portion of the huge entertainment industry. And in fact, it's not that expensive. Most of the consumers among the operators that are members of my association, their spend is on an average maybe 500 Swedish krona. That would be equivalent to 50 euro a month.
So you would say it's quite a popular activity for Swedish?
It is. It's like going to the cinema. But with the prospect of having 95% of the cinema ticket paid back to you. So it's a fantastic industry. But also, you asked me about, as an ex-politician, what's the political aspect of this?
What's the parallel between the two industries, maybe?
Well, yeah, but one thing that differs them is that cinemas in Sweden, for example, and in fact in all jurisdictions that I am aware of, is something that everyone is allowed to do it as long as you follow regulation, and states do not run their own cinemas, definitely not in Scandinavia. Whereas in Scandinavia and in my hometown, my home country Sweden, some 10-15 years ago, when I first started to show my engagement to this industry, Sweden was to 100% a monopoly. So the operators that operate from the country where I visit today, Malta, they were prohibited to do so, and they were prohibited to hire people. And my simple idea was that as long as you comply with the standard and a high set of regulations that control consumer protection, AML, etc., then anyone should be allowed to operate on that market. And that was my first commitment, and something that I have hopefully contributed in my own home country to actually change.
And actually, when you look at 10 years ago, what happened? A lot of Swedish operators in the gaming industry, opened their headquarters in Malta. Is it different today? Are there more companies opening, gaming companies opening in Sweden as opposed to other jurisdictions?
Well, those companies that you mentioned, they grew exponentially and became very large. And so they are still here on Malta, but they do have, in most cases, large offices in Sweden as well. But I do think that what Maltese legislators saw some 20 years ago, namely to set up a legislatory framework here in Malta, was a super wise decision from Maltese politicians. Whereas the Swedish reaction to that development that happened some 20 years ago was rather to prohibit and to protect the monopoly. I think there is a saying, I don't know, I'm not native in English, so maybe it will be difficult for me, but there's a saying that when the wind is blowing, some people build shelters to stay away from the wind, whereas other people, they build windmills. And I think that Malta at that time, 20 years ago, they
built windmills.
Exactly.
And Europe remains a regulatory patchwork, as you know, with each country moving in its own direction on taxes, bonuses, advertising, blocking measures also, and products that are allowed. Do you think a minimal form of harmonization is realistic? And what would be the most useful starting point for a more coherent European online gambling landscape?
Yes, I think it is realistic. And I really want to stress that, since we live in a Europe and in an environment right now when the opposite is taking action at the moment. But impossible things have happened before. And I am 51 years old now. I intend to be 102. And so if you're patient, and I am patient, then I am certain that we will see more standardization, but not perhaps over the year, but over the decades. It will take time. And there are already examples of that. The initiative, for example, from the European Gaming and Betting Association with markers of harm. That's a brilliant initiative, especially since it regards consumer protection. But I do think that we, over time, when there is more self-confidence in the European Union, that they no longer will accept that each and every member state does whatever they want, which is actually the practice of today.
So better harmonization would be the way forward.
Definitely, for consumer protection, but also for consumer rights. I mean, in many jurisdictions, to give you one example, the states run still gambling monopolies in the lottery sector with a return to player, the price of the product that in most cases are around 50%, and competitors that want to offer a return to player with an average of 80 or 90%, that is a lower price on the product, are prohibited because the governments, they want to protect their own gambling operations. And I guess that's the crucial reply to your question, Cyril, that many states are not necessarily only focusing on consumer protection when they are protecting their own legislative framework, they also want to protect the profitability for the government.
Absolutely.
Since the government is operating their own gambling company.
Let's talk about the future. You often warn that if the regulated market becomes too rigid, all innovation ends up migrating to the black market. So, in your view, what would a truly future-proof regulatory framework look like?
In my dream scenario, I would get back to your previous question and ask for an EU gambling authority, one single EU authority that decided upon the regulations for our industry. I know that is very much...
in Brussels, for example?
Yes. But in midterm, I would ask for a framework legislation in each jurisdiction that allows the gambling authority to, with speed and legislatory certainty, allow new innovative games. It's crucial that the authority, not the government or the parliament, has the mandate to include new games, because it's a much faster process when the gambling authority can take the decision in comparison to a national parliament that takes a decision for each and every game. Then it obviously takes, well, a huge number of years if you hand over such questions to the government or to the parliament. So a solid but a framework legislation that gives a big mandate for the gambling authority to take decision, and also, of course, an ambition within that authority to include as many fun and safe games on the licensed gambling market as possible.
Let's see how it unfolds. Mr. Ofsted, thank you so much for your valuable insights.
Thank you, Cyril.